Hi people, Moninur back here again. In this video I'll be discussing animals in the occult, on whether animals can see spirits and whatnot, and the short answer is yes, they can. Animals in general can see spirits, okay? Animals like mammals, for example, same way that human beings officially belong to mammals, when it comes to fauna, when it comes to wildlife, you name it, pets, dogs, cats. This is something that most people have heard along the lines of it being a rumor that pets, for example, can see spirits and whatnot. Animals in general have that ability. The reason is that the same way that the general senses of animals are more refined than that of a human being. For example, having a heightened sense of smell, having a better sense of sight, being able to see during the night and whatnot, you name it. Their astral senses in general are also more developed, and therefore they can simply see spirits, and they're more attuned to nature too. They're more attuned to the outdoors and to wildlife, and to nature in general. Let's just say they're closer to the astral plane, to put it that way, due to the fact that they're not as developed as human beings, especially when it comes to, aside from overall, especially when it comes to the physical realm, to the physical plane. And yeah, it's more often than not that you might have heard that, for example, all of a sudden a dog starts barking or growling, and he's while staring at something that's not there. For example, staring at a door opening, or staring at something, a certain room, or either whimpering away from a room, or from a certain area, you name it. I'm not saying that that's the case every time, keep that in mind. Sometimes it could be something else, something that can be rationally explained. You know, for example, toxic gases or something, just an example. Something that can be harmful to them. But yeah, in general, usually if you experience a haunting at a place, or if you suspect a place being haunted, then yeah, animals are definitely also going to notice. They might not react if it doesn't pose a threat or a danger to them, but usually animals will immediately notice right away. And you'll do too if you pay close attention to their attitude and their behavior. They, generally speaking, won't display the kind of behavior that they normally display. The reason that animals don't always act upon it is because they're simply used to it, and most astral entities, most spirits, just go about their day and just go about their lives the same way we do, and they bear no ill will, or they have no harm for us in mind. They don't want to harm us in any way, shape, or form in general. But yeah, every now and then you'll come across one that has malevolent or dark intentions, and your pets will also notice that. I've experienced this in my own personal life. Back when I had dogs, when I was a child, for example, our dog was downstairs. Of course, the house was a two-story house, and it was on stilts, and the dog started growling all of a sudden. We clearly heard him growl after we heard all the dogs in the neighborhood bark and start to go nuts. You know, that's usually what they do when a spirit walks past. For example, if a spirit walks on the street, or something that can be a potential threat walks alongside the street. Keep in mind, this is not including ambulances and emergency services, because usually dogs will also start to howl at ambulances and anything that has strobe lights and that makes a similar sound. But we're referring to the streets being generally quiet, and all the dogs systematically bark. You can clearly tell by the way that they're barking that something is coming, so to speak. And yeah, it was right after that our dog, we clearly heard our dog downstairs barking. Okay, not barking, but we heard him growl aggressively. He clearly was seeing something, and we heard him being hit. I mean, you could legitimately hear the hit like this. And he whimpered briefly, you know, he went like, "Hey!" And that's when we immediately turned on the light and we went to look downstairs, and nothing. But everyone, you know, within the family knew what happened, and they knew what time it was. Not stupid, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You could clearly hear him being hit. He was hit once. So yeah, in essence, it was basically a spirit that was walking past, and that spirit came onto our yard, and my dog saw it, and he started growling. and that spirit hit him briefly, the same way that you'd hit a dog if a dog came close by to you and that dog was simply not appealing to you. The dog was simply a nuisance, or you just don't want that dog near you, and the dog won't go away by itself and it starts growling at you. You'll also kick it, for example, like this. So yeah. And another time is when this was years ago, back when I still lived in a one-bedroom apartment. I had a dog, a small dog, a black and white dog that I adopted. It was a stray dog, and I adopted that dog, and the dog spent time with me in the house. So he sat on the couch. It was a she, it was a bitch, so yeah. She sat on the couch, and all of a sudden I saw her staring towards the door opening, and she started behaving aggressively. She started barking. She started growling, but she started growling without opening up her beak. So she was literally like staring at something, and she went like, and I know what time it is. Back then, this was before I was an occultist. So yeah, I was still bogged down heavily by spirits and by negative energy and black magic and all that crap. So yeah, bottom line is that something came inside my one-bedroom apartment, or someone, and she saw it. I was unaware of it, but yeah, like I said, I was completely swamped back then. And yeah, it was so intense to the point where her behavior startled me, because she never does that in general. She never behaves like that. So yeah, bottom line is that animals in general, I try to find sources online that support this, but I can't find anything. You can only find 1 or 2 articles online, and those articles basically contradict what I'm saying without any elaboration whatsoever. But those are biased articles because they're scientific articles. They work, via scientific means, and the bottom line is that those articles either say that we just don't know, or just something similar. We just don't know, because there are so many reasons that an animal can start behaving erratically. You name it. So yeah, otherwise I would have added the sources in the article that you can, by the way, find in the description below. But bottom line is, according to my own knowledge and experience, this is a done deal. This is fact, okay? Animals can see spirits in general. The only animals that are unaffected by, for example, a spirit with malevolent intentions or negative astral energy nearby, for example, an astral parasites, are bugs and insects. The reason for why is that bugs and insects aren't spiritually developed enough to the point where they can actually be harmed spiritually. They're bugs and insects. Let's just say their spiritual development is equal to their size and vice versa. So they're unaffected, relatively speaking. It's the larger animals, basically mammals and whatnot, that are most affected. Of course, reptiles too and so on, but let's just say larger animals that have an average level of spiritual or astral consciousness, the same way human beings do. Those kind of animals are, can fall victim to a haunting or a possession, or just being attacked astrally or spiritually by any unwanted astral entity or an entity with bad intentions. And let's see if I forgot to state anything now. Give the article in the description below a read if you want to, but I'm pretty much saying the same thing that in the article that I just said in this video. And last but not least, I'm also going to state that that's why also, generally speaking, when you come across an area, people that have experienced this will also notice that, generally speaking, when you come across an area that is haunted, for example, specifically an outdoor area where there usually would be wildlife, there will be little to no wildlife present. For example, all the places that I went to haunted, the 1 or 2 haunted places, not all the places, but let's just say the few places that I went to, outdoors that were haunted, places in the jungle and whatnot, these places had no wildlife, okay, whatsoever. That's because the animals can sense that there's danger there. So they specifically avoid that vicinity. They avoid that small area in which that haunting takes place. So around that area, you'll find plenty of wildlife, but within that exact area, you can forget about it. Because the animals have learned, they know that it's a danger. Even birds, for example. Birds possess enough of a consciousness to know that, hey, they're not supposed to go there because there's danger there. If they go there, the entity that is present will either outright kill them in the worst case scenario or make them sick or similar. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And alongside other things, that's also why you'll notice that generally speaking the place is too quiet. We're talking about specifically an entity that has dark intentions, someone or something that will attack anyone coming nearby, pretty much, or that simply leaves an unpleasant atmosphere in the air. Animals tend to avoid those kind of spots specifically because they know that, hey, there's danger there. And like I said, you'll find bugs and insects generally speaking, but I've come across areas even where you can't even find bugs and insects. And but generally speaking, you'll find bugs and insects there because they're unaffected. Like I said, they're completely and utterly unaffected by any spirit or anything similar because they're simply not developed enough. The same way that if you were to throw yourself off a cliff, there's a good chance you would die or sustain serious injuries. But if you were to throw an ant or any other insect off a cliff, or off a bridge, that insect would survive, generally speaking, because that insect or that bug simply does not have the mass enough. It's not heavy enough. It doesn't possess the physical mass required for such a height to be a danger. And it's the same thing for, like I said, it's the same thing for their spiritual development. They're spiritually just as small as they are physically. So no haunting really poses a threat to them. And usually that's why also you'll see that haunted areas, for example, where usually there's flora and fauna, so plant and wildlife. The environment also is too quiet. No birds chirping, no nothing. No animal comes nearby unless it's a lost animal, and that animal will 90% guaranteed not come nearby that location again, because it'll immediately become affected by the energy and it will leave right away. It won't linger there, it won't hang around there. And even the plant life, sometimes you'll notice that plant life, for example, starts to grow in a crooked or irregular fashion. Plant life even doesn't behave normally because even plants live, obviously. Despite the fact that they might come off as inanimate, but plants live, of course. Their flora lives, and you'll notice in any case, the few places that I've been to, I've noticed that too. The plant life, the plants start to become deformed and they start to get some kind of blackish color. In any case, even the plant life behaves in a weird way. It doesn't behave, it doesn't radiate life. Let's just say the flora there doesn't radiate life. That's just a sideliner, okay? Since I was already on this topic, the plant life will start to show signs of almost decay, despite the fact that it's not decay. And you name it, tree roots will start to grow crooked and all of that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Bye.